All right, got Turi.
Ladies and gentlemen.
If Guy were you.
What you got, Guy?
Yes. If Guy were you. Yesterday I went to a funeral and a comedy show broke out.
Yeah.
If Guy were you, if
John
you're gonna have,
Witherspoon.
yeah, man. If Guy were you, if you're gonna have a funeral, have one like John Witherspoon, man. You know, a lot of people say, "Oh, it's a celebration of life." This was truly a celebration of life. Some of them, you know, they broke from tradition of having, you know, the regular going home celebration. They first of all told you to wear black. I mean, don't wear black. I'm sorry, don't wear black. Don't wear black. They said don't wear black. Wear colors. Don't wear black, because John was a colorful person. And that's true, because John was not your traditional artist. So having a non-traditional funeral was fitting for a man, an icon, a legend like John Witherspoon, man.
So coordinate
And
your colors.
and that's what it was, man. and as colorful as black people are, black just sets a certain mood, right? And I had gripes in the past about people wearing bright colors at funerals and you should wear dark colors. But for the fourth time in my entire life, I was wrong. That's only four times.
You've only been wrong 4 times in your
only been
entire
4 times. The third time was last week when I said I was going to promise to get along with my brother Joe. I was wrong. I'll never say that again. But you know what? It was a welcome change because I went to the funeral. I ain't gonna lie. I went there in a bad mood. Well, not in a dark mood. I was sad, but it totally changed course, man. And it was one white dude there with a clown suit on. Now, any other funeral, he would look like a crazy white dude. But with the rest of the clowns that attended the service, he fit right in. Right? And when you ever have comedians in the lineup, they're like black preachers. They're not going to stick to their time.
That's funny.
Yeah, it was a 3-hour funeral.
How many lights were given?
Oh man, they ran through them. They ran through them red lights, man. Like it was a car chase. I'm telling you, that nobody respected the time. David Letterman kicked it off. First of all, looking like the gnome from the Travelocity commercial. That long white beard, man.
Early for Christmas, yeah.
Early for Christmas, and he wore some shoes that John gave him like 12 Christmases ago. And he took them off and held them up and said, "This is the first time I wore these shoes out the house." You know, John had a crazy sense of fashion sense, man. And then he told a story about just a few years ago, him and John being in Indiana, and they shut down the White Castles. They went to White Castles, and all the employees and customers were hopping over the counter and went crazy over John Witherspoon. Like David Letterman didn't realize the power of John Witherspoon. They didn't know who David Letterman was. They was going crazy for John. And then Cedric the Entertainer was his usual jovial, hilarious self, man. He came up and he was mocking Reverend Marvin Winans, who was, you know, officiating the funeral. And he started talking like drawing out his S's, yes, and praised. I mean, it was a perfect, dead-on, spot-on impersonation. Shawn Wayans was the funniest I've ever seen him.
Wow.
I mean, his impersonation, I mean, he was no, serious. And that's not a slight, but he was talking about, huh?
It's not.
No, he was fun. No, I'm serious. He was like did a set yesterday and it killed. And it's hard to do a set at a funeral. Amongst peers, yes. Yeah. But he told this story about him being at the Laugh Factory and John Witherspoon was on stage, and he was standing there with Paul Mooney, and Paul Mooney was kind of, Sean didn't say this, but it's really a comic throwing shade at another comic who's destroying, but he said John was destroying on stage, just killing, and he was back there with Paul Mooney, and Paul Mooney was saying, oh, everybody like pancakes. Everybody like pancakes. And he basically was saying that, you know, pancakes has no edge. So Paul Mooney was kind of throwing shade on the slide. But with the phenomenal job that John Witherspoon was doing, man. Bill Bellamy was funny, sharing stories about them being together on the road. Regina King gave a nice tribute. And she talked in her voice from Boondocks, Riley.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. She wasn't able to make it. She was out of the country. And she asked if John played tennis. And I always wondered that, too, because John always looked like he was dressed to go play tennis.
He did, yeah.
Yeah. She said, did John play tennis? He always had a tennis outfit on. You know, family and friend of the show, George Wallace, man, with his usual funny self, man. He said John Witherspoon was the first black comedian to introduce him at the Comedy Store.
Wow.
Yeah, and John, I mean George Wallace was, funny with his new teeth. His new teeth is still setting in.
George will be on this morning.
Good. And Ice Cube, who came on after all the comedians, who the only one who wore black.
Of course.
But who's gonna say anything to Ice Cube?
Exactly.
But he was sharing stories about how he booked John Witherspoon for Friday. He booked him before Chris Tucker because he said he knew if he had John Witherspoon, he'd have an anchor comedian for the show, and that would save the show. And then Chris Tucker joined it, and then it just took the movie into a whole nother lane. But what Ice Cube did do was he cussed out New Line Cinema for not greenlighting another Friday movie. And then he not only cussed New Line Cinema out, he started naming names and giving email addresses for the people responsible for not greenlighting the movie.
Oh, dang.
Yeah, how gangster was that?
Okay.
Wow.
That's
But it was a lot of fun, man. Shantae Moore sang great. Howard Hewitt, Shanice, Jeffrey Osborne, man, they just tore it down. And then Reverend Marvin Winans did the smartest thing a preacher could have done. He knew the service was long, and he said, I had a eulogy planned, but since we've been here so long, I'm just gonna get to the song. And he sang his butt off, man. So I mean, so this is the thing. If Guy were you, the next time somebody goes to the upper room, don't have a funeral, have a funeral.
nice.